Hello student, today lecture about the respiratory system. Next question. First question, overview of the respiratory system, the anatomy of the nose and paranasal sinuses, the anatomy of the larynx, the anatomy of the trachea and bronchial tree, and next question, the anatomy of the lung and pleura. The respiratory system performs the next functions. Pulmonary ventilation. Air must be moved into and out of the lungs to let the gases in the air sacs alveoli of the lungs are continuously replaced. This movement is commonly called ventilation. External respiration, second function. Gas exchange must come between the blood and air of the lung alveoli. Oxygen in the air sacs diffuses into the blood. Carbon dioxide in blood diffuses into the air sacs. Transport of respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide must be transported between the lungs and cells of the body. This is accomplished by the cardiovascular system with blood serving as a transporting fluid. Next function, internal respiration. At the systemic capillaries, gases must be exchanged between the blood and the tissue cells. The organs of the respiratory system include the nose, nasal cavity, and paranasal sinuses, and the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, and their small bronchus, and the lungs, which contain the terminal air sacs or alveoli. Now do you see organs of respiratory system? Respiratory structures. The respiratory structures system are divided into conduction and respiratory zones. The conducting zone includes the respiratory passageway that carry air to sites of gas exchange. The structures of the conducting zone also filter, humidify and warm the incoming air. The respiratory zone, the actual site of gas exchange in lungs, is composed of terminal respiratory passageways that contain alveoli, namely the respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts, and alveolar sacs. Conducting and respiratory zones. Conducting zone and respiratory zone. Respiratory zone. The conducting zone divided two parts. And upper respiratory tract, this is nasal cavity, cavitas nasi, and pharynx. And lower respiratory tract, this is larynx, trachea, and lungs. Lungs include the right lung, pulma dexter, and pulma sinister. Upper respiratory tract, lower respiratory tract. The nose. The structure of the nose is divided into external nose and internal nasal cavity. Function: provides an airway for respiration, moistens and warms entering air, filter in inhaled air to cleanse it of foreign particles, serves as a resonating chamber for speech, house the olfactory or smell receptors. This is part you see. Dorsum nasi, alley of nose, apex of nose, nostril, philtrum, root and bridge of nose. External skeletal framework. The external nose consists of the frontal bone, and nasal bone, frontal bone and nasal bone. Nasal bone and frontal bone, nasal bone. Next, maxillary bones. This is frontal process. Lateral process of septal cartilage. Septal cartilage. septal cartilage, and lateral process of septal cartilage. This is right and left. Minor alar cartilages. Denser fibrous connective tissue and alar cartilage fixed with spine nassalis. This is you see external nose, skeleton, external skeleton, preamble. Nasal cavity. What do you see? Nasal cavity. Nasal cavity lies in posterior to the external nose. What external nose? This is you see external nose. This is you see nasal cavity. Nasal cavity is divided into right and left halves to nasal septum. What you see nasal septum in the midline. Septum include next part. This is lamina perpendicularis ossis ethmoidalis. This is you see this is structure palate. Vomer. This is you see septum cartilaginous and hard palate. This is part lamina horizontalis ossis palatina, and you see lamina palatina ossis maxilla. Ossis maxilla. Nasal cavity. And posterior wall of nasal cavity. This is you see ossis sphenoidalis. This is body. Os sphenoidalis. Bone boundaries of the nasal cavity. Its root is formed by ethmoid and sphenoid bones. Its floor is formed by palate, horizontal processus os palatinus and processus palatinus maxillary bone, which separated nasal cavity from mouth inferiorly. They are called hard palate. Its lateral wall is formed superior and medial concha of ethmoid bones, and inferior nasal concha separate bone. The groove inferior to each concha is meatus. Meatus superior, meatus medius, meatus inferior. You see three concha: superior concha, medial concha, nasal concha, and inferior concha. What you see? Nasal cavity. you see lateral wall of nasal cavity, the septum removed. This is septum to remove. The nasal cavity has two parts. The vestibulum nasum, and actual nasal cavity, cavitas nasi propria. The lateral walls of the cavitas nasi propria are covered of the mucous membrane, the small patch of olfactory mucosa. Near the roof of the nasal cavity, which houses the receptor for smell, and the respiratory mucosa, mucous membrane that lines the vast majority of the nasal cavity. What you see, superior nasal concha, superior nasal concha. This is you see middle nasal concha, and inferior nasal concha. Between concha is located meatus. Meatus, superior meatus, middle meatus, and inferior meatus. This is you see hard palate. Hard palate. And you see special orifice. This is pharyngeal orifice of auditory tube. This is os sphenoidalis. This is sinus sphenoidalis. This is you see sinus frontalis. Oral cavities, apex nose. Now what's this you see picture? This what you see in this posterior nasal aperture, or you see opening pharyngeal tympanic tube. This is nasal cavity, this is oral cavity. This is nasal vestibule, nostril. This is external skeleton of nose. This is sinus, you see sinus. This is celatocecum. This is os sphenoidalis. This is os ethmoidalis. The vertebra. Oral cavity. Next question, the paranasal sinuses. Nasal cavity is surrounded by a ring of air-filled cavities called paranasal sinuses, located in frontal, sphenoid, ethmoid, and maxillary bone. These sinuses open into nasal, what you see, nasal cavity. This is these sinuses open into nasal cavity, are lined by the same mucosa and perform the same air processing function as does that cavity. This mucus drain into the nasal cavities, and the suctioning effect caused by nose blowing help to drain them. through nostril. This is what you see in norma lateralis. This is norma facialis, you see. From norma facialis, what you see, norma lateralis, located frontal sinus, ethmoid air cells of ethmoidalis. This is sphenoid sinus projection and maxillary sinus. What you see, this structure, this sphenoid, you see sphenoid sinus, Röntgen anatomy, тоже Röntgen anatomy. And you see the lateral wall of nasal cavity, septum remove. And this is what sphenic model, it says. This is superior concha, middle concha, inferior concha, and meatus, superior, middle, inferior. This is Hoana. This is Hoana. This is Hoana. Hoana. Next part of respiratory system, the larynx. The larynx or voice box extend from the level of 4th to 6th cervical vertebra. Superiorly is attached to the hyoid bone and opens into the laryngopharynx inferiorly. It continues with trachea. This is what you see, boundaries. This is os hyoideus and the trachea. The superior opening to larynx is closed during swallowing and open during breathing. The larynx has 3 functions: producing vocalization, providing an open airway, and acting as switching mechanism to road air and food into the proper channel. This is, you see, larynx. This is boundaries. This is, you see, pharyngeal prominence, Adam's apple for man. Framework of larynx is an intricate arrangement of 9 cartilages connected by membranes and ligaments. The framework of larynx is divided: unpart cartilage, это thyroid cartilage, cartilago thyroidea, cricoid cartilage, cartilago cricoidea, epiglottis, cartilago epiglottica, part cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, cartilago arytenoidea, corniculate cartilage, cartilago corniculata, cuneiform cartilage, cartilago cuneiformis. What you see, anterior aspect, cartilage of larynx, and with hyoid, and posterior aspect, you see cartilago thyroidea. Cartilago thyroidea. This is unpart cartilage. Cartilago cricoidea. Cartilago cricoidea. And epiglottis. Epiglottis. bone os hyoideus. Os hyoideus. This is horn, large horn minor. This is Greta cornu and lesser cornu. And part cartilage. What do you see? Arytenoid cartilage, cartilago arytenoidea, what you see, and corniculate cartilage, cartilago corniculata. This cartilago cuneiform is absent in the picture. Epiglottis. The foundation of the epiglottis is aperture plate made of elastic cartilage. The cartilage goes downward to the front in the stalk of the epiglottis. You see, this is cartilago thyroideo, cartilago arytenoideo, cartilago cricoideus, carniculate, cartilago carniculate. This is trachea. You see trachea. This is trachea. Cricoid cartilage. Thyroid cartilage. Lateral aspect, this is anterior aspect. The thyroid cartilage consists two plate. Lamina dextra and lamina sinistra, sitting like a protective shield in front of the voice production part of the larynx. They join together ventrally and right angle in men, at a slightly larger angle in women. This 90, this is 120 in women. The interface with the incisura thyroidea superior is retracted cranially and goes up to the forwest point of the ventral side, the prominentia laryngea, Adam's apple. This is Adam's apple. On the outer side, bulging at posterior, best posterior of thyroid cartilage, are tuberculum superioris, tuberculum superioris, and tuberculum inferioris. Значит, tuberculum thyroideum superior and tuberculum thyroideum inferior, which are connected via the linea obliqua. All protuberances serve as zones for tendon insertion of muscles. The posterior edge of the side places each major cranially into slightly long superior horn. Cornu superiorus. What you see? Cornu superiorus. Cornu superiorus или superior cornu. And the caudally into the inferior horn. Superior horn, inferior horn. Cornu inferiorus. On the inside of cornu inferiorus is the articular surface, the fasces articularis cricoidea. For articulation with the cricoid cartilage. This is cornu superioris, cornu inferiorus, tuberculum thyroideum superioris, and superiorus tuberculum thyroideum inferiorus. And fasces articularis cricoidea. Next, cricoid cartilage. What you see? Cricoid cartilage, anterior aspect. Cricoid cartilage forms the base of laryngeal skeleton. It's shaped like a singlet ring with the cell being the lamina cartilaginis cricoidea. Lamina cartilaginis cricoidea. Pointing dorsally and carries articular surface to the right and left side of the upper edge. Above is fasces articularis arytenoidea, two articular with respective arytenoid cartilage, and on the side fasces articulatia thyroideus. Fasces articulatia thyroidea, surface to articular with thyroid cartilage. In front, the ring forms narrow arch, and lamina, narrow arch, or arcus cartilaginis cricoidea. Lamina, arcus. In adult, the cricoid cartilage is at the level of the thick cervical vertebra. This is cricoid cartilage. What you see, arytenoid cartilage. This is apex and the two processus, arytenoid. Arytenoid cartilage. What you see, arytenoid cartilage. The arytenoid cartilage, cartilago arytenoidea, are comparable to three-side pyramids. This means that each cartilage has 4 areas. Fasces anterolaterales. Fasces, you see, this is fasces posterior. Fasces medialis, fasces anterolaterales, and bases cartilaginous arytenoidea. Each arytenoid cartilage has three processes. Anterior processus vocalis at the epic consisting of elastic cartilage, lateral processus muscularis, and apex cartilaginous. What do you see? This is what do you see? This is processus vocalis, processus muscularis, and apex. This is anterolateral surface, are anterolateral. This vocalis, processus muscularis, and this is apex. But apex, and this is, you see, cartilage carniculator. What do you see? This is posterior fasces, this is medial. Well, this is apex. Corniculate and cuneiform cartilage. Cartilago corniculata, what do you see? Corniculata. This is cartilago arytenoidea. This is, you see, cartilago corniculata. And Santorini cartilage has a hook-shaped structure and can also be absent. It sits on the arytenoid cartilage and protrudes under the mucous membrane as the tuberculum corniculatum. The cuneiform cartilago cuneiformis, what do you see? Cartilago cuneiformis also may occur as variation. It protrudes into the plica epiglottica as the tuberculum cuneiforme, tuberculum corniculatum. Can also be absent. This is two cartilage. Ligaments of the larynx. The laryngeal cartilage bone are joined together by joints and connective tissue suspension system. The connective tissue apparatus made up of ligament and membranes, together with laryngeal muscles. Other muscles and the fascia of the larynx with breathing, phonation, and when swallowing. The ligament apparatus can be divided into outer and inner laryngeal ligaments. For example, this you see membrana thyroidea connect os hyoideus and cartilago thyroideus, and membrana divides three parts: ligamentum thyroideum and ligamentum thyreoideum medianum, lateralis and medianum. Ligamentum between cartilago cricoideum and cartilago thyreoideum, ligamentum cricothyreoideum. Now, for example, this is, you see, ligamentum vestibulare between thyroidea and aritonoidea cartilage. This is ligamentum vocale. And this is processus vocalis. This is, you see, cartilago thyroidea. And you see, this is many ligamentum and membrane. You see table outer laryngeal ligaments, you read at home, and inner laryngeal ligaments you will study at home. This you must know to lesson, practical lesson. What you see, for example, this is ligamentum, ligamentum thyroideum laterale. This is hyoid and thyroid cartilage at the rear edge of the membrane thyroidea. This is remarks. This is, you see, information for you. Laryngeal muscles. What you see, laryngeal muscle derived from the pharyngeal arches and subdivided according to their origin, location, and innervation into outer and inner laryngeal muscles. The striated muscles are extremely densely innervated and very well perfused. Functionally, they serve to open and close the vocal ligaments and maintain the tension of vocal fold. Muscles that change the shape of the vocal ligaments belong to the actuatum apparatus. Muscles that affect their tension are collectively called the tension apparatus. The most commonly used is the functional classification of the laryngeal muscles. What you see, laryngeal muscles. Functional classification of the laryngeal muscles. First group, muscles affecting the bite of the glottis. Expanding, narrowing. Expanding, musculus cricoarytenoideus posterior. Narrowing, musculus cricoarytenoideus lateralis. Musculus arytenoideus, thyroarytenoideus, musculus arytenoideus transversus, musculus arytenoideus obliquus. Second group, muscles affecting the state of the vocal cords. Stretching, musculus cricothyroideus. Relaxing, musculus vocalis, pars interna musculus thyroarytenoideus. Third group, muscles affecting the bite of the entrance to the larynx, musculus aryepiglotticus, musculus ceratocricoideus, and fourth group, muscles of the epiglottis. Muscles, musculus thyroepiglotticus. This is four group of laryngeal muscles. What you see, muscles laryngeal muscles and larynx, anterior aspect and posterior aspect. This is, you see, scheme. What you see, expanding muscles. What do you see? This is cricoarytenoideus posterior. This is narrowing muscles. Musculus, for example, musculus arytenoideus, what you see, musculus arytenoideus transversus. What you see, transversus, musculus transversus. Next, musculus arytenoideus obliquus. You see musculus cricoarytenoideus lateralis. What you see, anterior aspect, you see muscles cricotiroideus. This is cartilago cricoidea. This is cartilago tiroideus. Muscles cricotiroidea muscles. Это stretching muscles, and other muscles. This is, you see, group of muscles, of the larynx. What if you see epiglottis? Laryngeal levels. Anatomically, the larynx is divided into laryngeal vestibulum, vestibulum laryngis, from the edge, the epiglottis, up to vocal fold. Mid-larynx level, ventriculus laryngis, included the area between the vocal fold. Larynx level, cavitas infraglottica. Below the vocal fold, to the lower edge of the cricoid cartilage. This vestibulum laryngis, ventriculus laryngis, and cavitas infraglottica. What you see, ventricle laryngis, vestibulum laryngis, and you see cavitas infraglottica. What epiglottis? This is horn superior of the thyroid cartilage. Clinically, the larynx is divided into supraglottic space, transglottic space of the vestibular fold, including the ventriculi laryngis up to underneath the vocal fold. And the subglottic space, the subglottis, from below the vocal fold, the lower edge of the cricoid cartilage. Supraglottic space from the edge epiglottic up, the vestibular fold. Transglottic space and subglottic space. And this is clinically characteristic. Trachea. The trachea connects the larynx with the main bronchi, bronchus precipitalis dexter and bronchus precipitalis sinister. It is one of the air conducting part of the respiratory system and serves to transport the inhaled air, humidify and vomit. What you see, trachea. Trachea is then 10 and more, this 30 centimeter long. It joined to cricoid cartilage of larynx and project onto 7th cervical vertebra. And high when lying down. What do you see? Trachea. It ends at the bifurcatia trachea, at the level of the 4th, 5th thoracic vertebra, in two main bronchi. Bronchi precipitalis. Distinction is made between two parts. Trachea. This is cervical section, pars cervicalis, and thoracic part, pars cervicalis, and pars thoracica. Pars thoracica. Two parts. Pars cervicalis, pars thoracica. This is trachea. You see trachea. Trachea. In chest cavity, the thymus lies ventral to the pars thoracica. The trachea here runs in the superior mediastinum. In channel between the trachea and esophagus, the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Throughout its trajectory, the dorsal trachea is accompanied by the esophagus. This is, you see, trachea and bronchi, right and left. The ribbon of the trachea is kept open by 1610 cause shoe-shaped cartilage rings, tracheal cartilage. The cartilage rings consist of hyaline cartilage but are elastically deformable. They are connected by ligamentum annulare, made of collagen fibers and elastic fibers, which gives them flexibility and enable in length. This is, you see, cartilage trachealis, ligamentum annularis. What you see before cartiotrachea. On the rear wall of the trachea, the ends of the cartilage rings are connected to elastic fiber, pares membranaceus, via a connective tissue plate in with smooth muscle, musculus trachearis, are embedded. This membranous portion of trachea allows an enlargement of trachea diameter. The musculus trachearis is always minimally contracted at rest and ensures that the pares membranaceus is touched, making the diameter of the trachea approximately 16-18 mm. For inspiration, the muscle tone is reduced and lumen increased slightly. What we see, trachea ring. This is the lumen of trachea. Anterior surface, behind located is esophagus. And the work of trachea, dividing it into two main bronchi at the level of fourth thoracic vertebra, corresponding to sternal attachment of the third rib and ridge projection into the lumen from the last trachea cartilage. This is, you see, carina trachea. Here the air is divided into left and right, left bronchus precipitalis sinister, and right main bronchus precipitalis dextra. At the point, turbulence may occur that the head as breathing sounds during auscultation, during auscultation. This is trachea, this bronchi, right and left. The angle between main bronchi is 55-65. The distribution of the trachea is asymmetrical. The right main bronchus is stronger, 1 to 5 centimeter long and almost vertical, whereas the left main bronchus is almost twice as long. What you see, short, right? This is long, and the diameter is narrower and angled. The first division of bronchial tree, bronchial tree form. Every bronchus, right and left, divided on form forms bronchial tree, arbor bronchialis. Division of bronchial tree is dichotomous, bronchial tree. This is lung tissue has been removed. What is this you see? Right bronchus, left bronchus. This is lung. Projection of the lungs, right and left lung, pulma dexter, pulma sinister, lie in the thorax and is separated by the mediastinum into pleural cavities, cavitas pleuralis. This is cavity thorax. This is, you see, diaphragm. It's hot. The lungs have the shape as rounded off cone. The upper convex portion of the lungs, apex pulmonis, reach above the upper thoracic aperture by approximately 5 cm, while the concave base of the lung broadly cover diaphragm dome. This is, you see, apex, fasces diaphragmatica, This is, you see, fascia costalis, lying laterally on the ribs in largest area of lung. In the medially lie fasces mediastinalis, that separated by lung towards the mediastinum is lung hilum, what you see, hilum pulmonis. This is fascia diaphragmatica, fascia mediastinalis, fascia costalis. Fascia costalis. Between three areas of lung lies the lung margins. Margo anterior, between fasces mediastinalis and fasces costalis, and margo inferior, between fasces costalis and fasces costalis and fasces diaphragmatica. Margo anterior, margo inferior, and three fasces: costalis, mediastinalis, and diaphragmatica, and two margo anterior and inferior. And you see hilum pulmonis. On the mediastinal surface, right lung, left lung. On each lung is indentation, the hilum pulmonis, through which blood vessels, bronchi, lymphatic vessels, nerves enter and exit the lung. Artery, this enter and exit lung. Collectively, this structure attach the lung to the mediastinum and the called the root of lung, radix pulmonis. The largest components of root are the pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein, vein and main primary bronchus. The rule for location of structure in the hollow of lung from top to bottom. In the left lung, artery, bronchi, vein. This is, you see, ABV, short abbreviator. In right lung, you see bronchi, artery, vein, bronchi, artery, vein. Left artery, bronchus, vein, bronchus, artery, vein. This is the rule for the location structure in hilum of lung. The lung weight approximately 800. The total volume of the lungs is 2-3 liter. The tissue of the lung is formed by dichotomous branching bronchial tree and its accompanying blood vessels. The main bronchi each divided into lobal bronchia, bronchiolabaris, which the right lung has 3 and left lung 2. No, you see loba of lung. The right lung has 3 lung lobes, upper lobe, lobus superior, lobus medius, lobus inferior. Left lung has 2 lung lobes, upper lobe, lobus superior, and lobus inferior. The lingual of the left lung, lingua pulmonis sinistra, that runs below incisura cardiac. This is absent. Correspond to middle lobe on the right lung. What you see? Lingua, what lingua? What you see? Lingua. I see lingua. This is incisura. The lobes of the lungs are separated from each other by fissure. Is right lung fissura obliqua, fissura horizontalis. In left lung, fissura obliqua. The main bronchi, right and left, divide into the lobar bronchi, bronchus lobaris, on which the right lung has 3 1, 2, 3, and left lung 2 bronchi, 2. This is bronchus lobaris superior, sinister, and bronchus lobaris inferior, sinister. This is 3 bronchi lobaris and 3 lobes in lung. The lobe bronchi are split into the segmental bronchi, bronchi segmentalis, that corresponds to 1 lung segment each. The lobe bronchi are split into segmental bronchi. The right lung has 10 segments, in left lung has the 9th segment. The segments form a functional unit and are only separated from each other by connective tissue. Macroscopically, this distinction is not visible. Now, but for example, you see bronchus lobaris superior dexter divided on next bronchus segmentalis, bronchus segmentalis apicalis, bronchus segmentalis posterior, and bronchus segmentalis anterior. This is lobes include 3 segments. Next, bronchus lobaris dexter medius form bronchus segmentalis lateralis and bronchus segmentalis medialis. Bronchus lobaris inferior dexter forms 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bronchus segmentalis. What you see, bronchus segmentalis superior, bronchus segmentalis basalis medialis, bronchus segmentalis basalis anterior, bronchus segmentalis basalis lateralis, and bronchus segmentalis basalis posterior. Bronchus precipitalis forms some lobaris forms bronchus segmentalis 2. What, for example, segment distribution bronchopulmonary segment of lung and their relation to bronchial tree. What you see, right lung medial aspect and lateral aspect. This is, you see, lobe. This is upper lobe, this is middle lobe, this is lower lobe. Every lobe divides on next segment. This is apical segment, you see, posterior segment and anterior segment. For example, bronchi. Bronchus segmentalis apicalis, apical segment. This is bronchus segmentalis posterior segment, posterior, and bronchus segmentalis anterior. This is anterior segment. Together forms upper lobe bronchus. This is segments. This left lung, what do you see? Left lung, what you see, this is lingua, and not lingua. What you see? Left bronchus precipitalis divides on two bronchus labaris superior and bronchus labaris inferior. What you see? Upper lobe bronchus lobe. What, for example, bronchus segmentalis apico posterior. What you see? A segment of lung. Next, bronchus segmentalis anterior. This is anterior segment. What you see? Segment, 3 segment. Superior bronchus branchialis lingualis superior segment. What do you see? Segment. Bronchus, for example, bronchus lingualis inferior, correlation with segment inferior lingual segment, and so on. Next, pleura. Around each lung is flattened sac whose wall consists of serous membrane. Serous membrane. What you see? Serous membrane. Called pleura. The outer layer of this sac is parietal pleura. What you see? Parietal pleura. Inner layer, this visceral pleura. The parietal pleura covers the internal surface of the of the thoracic wall, the superior surface of the diaphragm, and the lateral surface of the mediastinum. The parietal pleura, it is continuous with visceral pleura, which covers the external lung surface. The space between parietal and visceral pleura is pleural cavity. The pleural cavity is filled with thin film of pleural fluid. What you see? A cardiac notch, incisura cardiaca. What you see? Incisura cardiaca. The pleura also divided the thoracic cavity into 3 separated compartments: the central mediastinum, and 2 lateral pleura compartment. This is mediastinum and lateral compartment, each containing a lung. What you see, lung? This is left lung, this is right lung. This is, you see, heart. This compartmentalization helps to prevent the moving lungs or heart from interfering with one another. This compartmentalization also limits the spread of local infection and the extent of traumatic injury. What you see, mediastinum, this is central pleura, mediastinum, and lateral pleura compartment. This is lung. This is, you see, bronchi. This is root of lung at hilum. This is, you see, thoracic wall. You see sagittal section through the thoracic cavity. This is, you see, localization organ in mediastinum. Mediastinum divided next part. Superior mediastinum, this is yellow color. Middle mediastinum, blue color. Posterior color, orange, and anterior mediastinum, pink. In superior mediastinum located trachea, brachiocephalic vein, thymus, aortic arch, esophagus, thoracic duct. Middle mediastinum located heart, ascending aorta, pulmonary tract, pulmonary vein, phrenic nerve. And posterior mediastinum located esophagus with vagus nerves, the descending aorta, thoracic duct, sympathetic trunk, and anterior mediastinum, pink, is located smaller vessels and nerves, fat and connective tissue, thymus, only in child. This is, you see, surgical section, the thoracic cavity. The part of mediastinum. Thank you very much for attention. Goodbye, student.